Colleagues, could I call Congress to order, please? Thank you. Congress, good morning, welcome back. I hope you had a really nice night last night. Yes? Thank you, good. The first thing we're going to take is a new Standing Order Committee report number 3.
President, Congress, Helen Johnson, Midland and East Coast Region, moving SOC report number 3. Withdrawn motions. The SOC has been informed that the following motions have been withdrawn. Motion 115, voting rights for retired members, standing in the name of Wales and South West Region. Motion 127, campaign to support those with hidden disabilities, standing in the name of London Region. Motion 128, hidden disabilities, standing in the name of Birmingham and West Midlands. Motions 127 and 128, which formed Composite 8, hidden disabilities campaigning. Motion 199, Mental Health and the Equalities Act, standing in the name of Yorkshire and North Derbyshire Region. Motion 211, Development in Retail Supermarket Sector, standing in the name of Northern Region. Motion 238, GMB Local Government Members, standing in the name of Northern Region. And Motion 366, Social Care, standing in the name of Northern Region. Bucket collections. The SOC has given permission for the following regions to hold bucket collections. Midland and East Coast Region for the Butterflies Memory Loss Support Group in Hull. The SOC recommends that this takes place at the close of the morning session today. GMB Scotland for Guide Dogs for the Blind. The SOC recommends that this takes place at the close of the morning session tomorrow. And Yorkshire and North Derbyshire Region for Jessica's Sarcoma Awareness. The SOC recommends this takes place at the close of the morning session on Wednesday. Would regional secretaries please note that once the collection has taken place, the region should provide the SOC with a written note saying how much has been collected so that we can report this back to Congress. President Congress, I move SOC report number 3.
Thank you, Helen. Is there anybody who wants to speak against? No? In that case, can I put the SOC report number 3 to the vote, please? All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Anybody against? No, brilliant. Thank you, Helen. Cheers. We had a really good day yesterday. It was really on time and people were very respectful. So can I just ask, it's a heavy day today with lots more motions. So again, I would just ask people to be mindful of the red light and yeah, do your best, okay? We'll have a good day, another good day. Okay, this morning we will debate motions relating to public services. Please can speakers for motion 233 make their way to the stage, and speakers on motions 234, 236 and no, not 238 because that's just been withdrawn. We will shortly be debating the special report on local government and austerity. So can speakers, the one speaker from each region on that report, please be ready to speak to, because then we can speed up if people are ready to move to the front. Can I have the mover, if you're ready, the mover for motion 233, please.
Good morning. President, Congress, Kimberley Inglis, Northern Region, first-time delegate, first-time speaker. Moving motion 233, government plans for regional pay in public services. Congress, this Tory government is no friend of public services. It does not care about local communities. If they did care, they would not cut spending in some of the most deprived areas in this country. And what makes matters worse is that the Tories carry out these policies as though they enjoy what they're doing. Congress, you will recall that Tories tried to bring in regional pay model public services during the Tory and Lib Dem government about 7 years ago. Thankfully, they didn't bring in their proposals. Now, though it seems the Tories are hell-bent on bringing in regional pay for public services, Congress, it shows how out of touch this government really is. Not only have they got the worst Prime Minister in living memory, but they also have the worst Chancellor, Philip Hammond. The Tories really don't know what it's like in the world of work. The millionaires in the Cabinet haven't got a clue about working at the sharp end in public services. They're not interested in the dedication, hard work and commitment of GMB members. Congress, as we move into what looks like a general election on the horizon, we seek a guarantee that the Tory government will abandon its plans. We also seek support from the Labour Party and will welcome their views on this matter so far. In Congress, when the election is called, the GMB will call those to account the way they treat our members working in public services. I move.
Thank you, Kimberly. Well done. Seconder for motion 233. Is there a seconder for motion 233? Thank you very much. In that case, mover for motion 234, please.
President, Congress, David Clegg, Northern Region, moving motion 234, public service pensions. Congress, 30 years ago, part-time women workers were prevented from paying into the local government pension scheme. Government has attacked people for saving for retirement. Now the government is holding back over £2 billion from over 4 million public sector workers who have been overcharged for their pensions. Congress, this Tory government is acting like the disgraced Robert Maxwell by raiding our members' benefits to pay for the reckless decisions of government ministers on public sector pensions. A few years ago, under the Tories, we had a public sector dispute on pensions. This was due to the threats to cut pension benefits. In public services, a decent pension in retirement is one of the few key benefits we have left to look forward to. Now we have the Tories again wanting to raid pension funds. This Tory government is no friend of the public sector worker by their actions on the pensions. Congress, after cutting benefits a few years ago, it is clear that some of the assumptions about living longer have not been proven to be correct. And it has an impact on the pension forecasts. Congress, the fact that the pensions deficits have reduced over time, especially in the schemes in the public sector, now this Tory government is holding back the money again, where they should be putting it back into the pension schemes and improving benefits for our members, so that our members get a decent pension when they finish work. It shows how out of touch the government ministers are when they react to decisions that go against them in court. What the government should be doing is to recognise when they are wrong. They should put back the benefits that they have taken away from our members and their families. We call upon the Labour Party, the trade union Labour Party, our Labour Party, to confirm their intentions and ask them to support members in their policy on public sector pensions. Congress, I move.
Thank you, David. Is there a seconder for that motion? Formally, much appreciated, Northern Region, thank you. Mover for motion 236, please.
President, Congress. Mervyn Edwards, Birmingham West Midlands Region. First time speaker, speaking on behalf of motion number 236. Thanks, you have impeccable taste. Potteries-born author Arnold Bennett believed that self-education was the best education. It's a view that accords quite comfortably with that of the Workers' Educational Association. And decades before that, the appetite of thousands of working people for self-improvement, one of the great rallying calls of the Victorian age. Many of our comrades here today will have used museums, art galleries and libraries that offer us the chance to broaden our minds and to self-improve. But how many of these amenities are propped up by low-paid workers and volunteers? As local authorities across the country compete with one another for the honour of City of Culture status, it is well to remember that it was reported in late 2018 that nearly 130 libraries had closed in Britain in the previous 12 months. The knock-on effect has been that full-time library workers have lost their jobs and volunteer numbers at libraries have increased dramatically. The local authority funding gap has resulted in fewer libraries, significant stock loss and poorer customer service. But it isn't the fault of volunteers that this has occurred. What's more, those volunteers deserve greater recognition for the revenue they've had to generate for our towns and cities. Free libraries, museums, and other attractions are a social lifeline for the many, as well as being pillars of democracy. What do I mean by that? Well, when the Public Libraries Act was passed in 1850, there was much hostility to it from Conservatives who bellyached that the upper and middle classes would be paying for a service that would be mainly used by the lower classes. It was stated that the more education people get, the more difficult they are to manage. This, of course, is why tyrants and extremist regimes have burned libraries throughout history. Damn dangerous things, those books. It's not only libraries where we will find volunteers willing to impart knowledge or to help family historians find out whether they really were descended from Jack the Ripper. Across the Birmingham and West Midlands region, we have numerous award-winning tourist attractions that boost the local economy by attracting visitors from far and wide. At our industrial museums, volunteer workers might show us how to throw a pot or explain vanishing skills. These decent, passionate people are part of what I call self-help Britain, a Britain that has been sold short by the establishment and whose public cultural amenities are sustained through the goodwill of ordinary folk making a special contribution to society. I move that Congress recognises their crucial role in the cultural and intellectual growth of our communities.
Well done, Mervyn. Yeah. Seconder, please.
President, Congress, Paula de Vries, Birmingham and West Midlands Region. First-time delegate, second-time speaker. I second the motion for the following reasons. Volunteer work in the leisure and recreation sector is increasingly challenging. Not only do library volunteers have to acquaint themselves with developing technology and systems, but they also have to evince people's skills in what is now a challenging social environment. Volunteers at local authority tourist attractions usually have to absorb information like a sponge, and even then, they stand to be caught out by an offbeat question from a visitor. Perhaps that's why they enjoy it so much. To be honest, they're probably like most of us at Congress today, very open-minded people wanting to create a better society through the communication of knowledge. I'm sure they don't actively seek credit for a job well done, but that's where we should come in. I therefore second the motion that the contribution of volunteer or low-paid workers at local authority-run tourist attractions and libraries be recognised for its crucial role in the cultural growth of communities, and that we campaign to raise awareness and support. Thank you.
Well done, Paula. Thank you. Does anyone want to speak in opposition to any of those motions? No? In that case, the CEC are supporting all those motions. So what I'm going to do is, because apparently I can do this, I'm going to take all three motions in one vote. So motion 233, motion 234 and motion 236, which the CEC are supporting. All those in favour, please show. All those against, they're all carried. Thank you. We now move on to the first of our CEC special reports on local government and austerity. I'll explain again how I intend to take this debate. The report will be moved and seconded by members of the CEC. I will then call on one speaker from each region that wishes to speak. We will then move on to the vote on the special report. But can speakers on motions 227, 228 and 272 please get ready for the next debate so that we've always got speakers at the front. June Minery, CEC, President of Public Services, to move the CEC special report. Thank you, June.
Good morning. President Congress, June Minery, President of the Public Services section, speaking on behalf of the CEC and proud to move the special report on local government and austerity. Colleagues, the situation in local government is desperate. A decade has passed since the financial crash, and councils are still buckling under remorseless cuts. Almost 1 million jobs have been lost, wages have been suppressed, demand continues to rise while resources diminish, particularly in adult social care. Our members perform vital services. Refuse workers, care staff, council officers, homelessness support workers, and all our other local government members. They are an essential part of the fabric of our society. They strive every day to improve and save people's lives, despite inadequate pay, a hostile right-wing press, and continual funding cuts. As the report states, GMB is fighting back in every nation and region. GMB has led the battle to defend services and to reject outsourcing. We have won the first above-inflation pay rises that some of our members have seen in a decade, and we're fighting for other forms of pay justice too. Nowhere was that better shown than during last year's Glasgow Women's Strike, which will be debated in more detail tomorrow. Glasgow's women workers, supported by GMB Scotland staff, won an outstanding victory in the face of shameful threats to use Tory anti-trade union legislation against them, and a barrage of vile, racist online abuse. I want to take this opportunity to express the CEC's total support and solidarity, and I'm sure all of Congress will wish to do the same with everyone who was involved in fighting and winning that truly historic dispute. As we said when the strike was won, victory was a moment of celebration for the women who secured what is rightfully theirs. But it was also a moment for self-reflection and asking hard questions about our own union's past approach. We must always make sure that GMB's actions match the values that we cherish. That means challenging pay inequality wherever we see it. That's why pay justice is one of the key pillars of the Public Services section's Go Public campaign, alongside fighting for improved funding and against austerity and outsourcing. Congress, local government workers did not cause the financial crash, but they are the ones paying the price. Austerity is, and always was, a political choice. The time to end it is long overdue. The CEC believes that this special report sets out an industrial and political agenda for defending and rebuilding local government services. We urgently need to improve and reform council funding. We need to end the destructive drive towards outsourcing. And Congress, when our members are denied their rights, We must always be at their side. I ask you to support this report. Thank you.
Thank you, June. Gordon.
President, Congress, Gordon Gibbs speaking on the special report for the CEC, and I'll try and speak in English if I can. Congress, austerity is hurting, but it isn't working. It's clear that austerity was never anything other than an attack on working people. Just look at what's happened in our councils. We were told that money could be saved through sharing services. Of course, that meant job losses. And, as this report sets out, it hasn't delivered what was promised. The Tories' other bright idea was outsourcing. Congress, we have endured the curse on our local services since the 1980s. It has achieved nothing other than driving down wages and service standards. I am sad to say that some privatisations have been pushed through by Labour councillors who have forgotten what Labour values mean, despite the appalling way the Carillion collapsed last year. The amount that local authorities spend on outsourcing is treated as a state secret. However, in this report, we have a firm estimate of $20 billion over the last 3 years in new contracts. And local authorities still owe close to $40 billion in PFI debts alone. That figure would be even higher if school PFI debts were included. This is money that could be spent on services. Congress, this is a moral disgrace. We need a better way forward. We need an approach based on protecting national agreements, bringing services in-house, and returning spending to local communities, not gifting it off to shore tax havens. Congress, please vote in favour of this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. I'll now call on one speaker from each region that wishes to speak on the report. So I'm going to go back in reverse alphabetical order this time. So Yorkshire, would you like to come up and speak on this first? Speaker from Yorkshire? Yeah, would you like to come up and speak? No.
Paul O'Brien, North Yorkshire and North Derbyshire region. Speaking on the CEC Special Report 2019 Local Government and Austerity. Madam President, brothers, sisters, Congress. Government imposed austerity is pushing local government to breaking point. In fact, it has broken some. Council have been forced to accommodate devastating and ongoing budget cuts, with services lost, cut to the bone, outsourced, terms and conditions slashed, and many jobs have been lost too. This has been ongoing since the coalition led by the Tories came into power. Who can forget the ideological zeal that it was clear to see on George Osborne's face when he announced the £81 billion spending when he first became Chancellor? Congress, now the cuts have become unacceptable, and still the government's agenda is to change the face of public services forever. And they're even destroying local government in their own backyard. The Conservative-controlled Northamptonshire County Council effectively ran out of money in 2018. Congress, even in leafy Tory Surrey. The County Council had an anticipated £105 million budget gap, despite the council representing an area festooned with millionaires and some of the highest average levels of wealth in the country. Congress, this simply will not do. The government must restore funding levels based on need for all the constituent parts of the country. They must ensure that future funding allocations, at the very least, keep pace with inflation and rising demand, as anything less achieves nothing. Outsourcing and privatisation have become part and parcel of local government. Our members suffer while the fat cats become richer. Congress, this report builds upon the GMB's policy as set out in the 2018 CEC statement on outsourcing and public ownership. We will continue to oppose attempts to outsource or privatise public services. We will seek to return services previously provided by local government or the public sector back into public ownership. This report makes our position clear. All public services should be available free at the point of use from cradle to grave for everybody. Congress, the heaviest cuts have been imposed on economically deprived areas and on low-paid workers, especially women workers, and the most vulnerable members of our society. The current government policy is an offence to the fundamental values that GMB was founded to uphold. We call upon Congress to accept this disturbing report, to campaign to fight this reckless and irresponsible government. It's their current flawed neoliberal economic strategy that is leading to poverty and unemployment for many local government workers. Congress, we pledge to fight to defend local jobs and services by the principles set out in the Go Public campaign. We will continue to push for an end to privatisation and outsourcing. We will campaign to the end of misery of zero-hours contracts, the exploitation of bogus self-employment, and the introduction of a real living wage of at least £10 an hour. Congress, this is the anniversary year of the union's creation. We are resolute that GMB will continue to represent and fight the interests of local government workers for at least another 130 years. We will redouble our efforts to grow and build this great union. Congress, please support.
Thank you, Paul. Wales and South West speaker, please.
Maxine Butler, Wales and South West Region, supporting this special report. President, Congress. Since 2010, there have been a relentless onslaught against public sector funding from a hostile government with a clear private sector ideology. Whilst their austerity policy has focused upon across-the-board budget cuts to government departments, the largest impact has been local government, which lost over half of its funding between 2010 and 2015. Congress, Mrs May's statement that the end is in sight is as hollow as can be, as the government's spending plans have not changed. Hard-pressed councils have cut services to the bone, to the point where the axe may well have to fall upon statutory areas of provision too. Indeed, aspects of welfare for our vulnerable citizens suffered a budget decline in real terms, whilst quality levels have reduced and eligibility thresholds have needed to be raised. Unsurprisingly, colleagues, the Tories have promoted privatisation and outsourcing at every opportunity, awarding contracts to those who have an interest only in profits and have no commitment to services to the public. Hiving off work to the private sector has resulted in increased worker vulnerability through inferior terms and conditions of employment, reduced health and safety protection, and little control over their lives at work. The tide, however, has firmly turned, with councils and other bodies realising that privatisation has failed them, even though the government still invokes it as a necessary first course of action. The political cover has now been blown, and it has been seen for what it really is, a way of redistributing wealth from the poor to the rich, with an associated harmful effect upon people and communities. As the report correctly notes, the social care sector has been a car about to crash for many years, with less money, fewer staff and more people needing access to services. Many firms are under a huge financial pressure, as seen with the recent Four Seasons announcement, whereas others have gone bust, largely because of the needs of a small percentage of the population at a time of austerity and cuts. The courage of our carer members is as inspiring as the position that they have been placed in, maintaining their commitment despite ever-diminishing resources. Congress, it is about time that this government accepted that there's a crisis in care. Care needs to be planned on an equal basis with the NHS, state-owned and state-provided, with fully integrated services, funded out of general taxation and with staff directly employed, properly trained and, most importantly, decently paid, treated with dignity and respect and valued. The pernicious Health and Social Act precludes any of those objectives being met, so there's a desperate need for dramatic change before it's all too late. Congress, this is a comprehensive and compelling report that sets out the problems and the potential solutions. Sadly, unless we have a change of government with an ideology based upon the importance of fully funded and directly delivered public services, then the chances are that the car crash will inevitably happen. My region fully supports this excellent report.
Well done, bang on time there, thank you. Southern region, please.
Madam President, it is truly an honour to be standing here to support this special report. Shireen Thompson, Southern Region. President Congress, it is an honour for me to stand and support the CEC special report on local government and austerity. In 2018, Theresa May declared the government's 8-year austerity programme was over, and yet public services suffer. Local government workers continue to go the extra mile. May we find hope of better days ahead because of her exit, and the strength and hope to find the next and the hope to fight the next walking nightmare who prepares to create even more fiasco of the Brexit. As a child growing up, I always heard the saying, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Now, as an adult, I finally realised the truth of this saying with this terrible government word, austerity. Congress, it is time that we fight back against austerity. Congress, we would not sit in silence and allow the government to put such cruel, degrading austerity measures in place, who they themselves have never experienced one night of what that impact of austerity does. I believe in leading by example and expect our GMB leaders to provide hope, support and strategies in addition to this report for us to fight the government on behalf of local government workers and the impact of austerity. Maybe, Congress, we could do a family swap, allow the fat cats in the government who make these cuts to experience, even for one night, or maybe a month would they survive, of what these measures have done to families like you and me. How could they survive on reduced pay and yet still provide such valuable services on such low cuts? Billions have been stripped from local authorities and the budgets, and millions have lost jobs since 2010. There have been cuts that have been disproportionately falling on women workers and also on council workers like myself. For the past 9 years, I have survived 8 restructures. I'm now in my 9th one and not knowing what the outcome will be. Congress, as a parenting officer, I see firsthand every day what austerity has done to our workers, our colleagues, and to families, who are struggling on the breadline and yet still offering a very valuable service. I see and witness the humiliation that the families go through, and yet they still get up every morning and do the valuable service that is so needed. So, Congress, we support this report, this special report, and I ask that we continue to fight. Whoever comes in as the next government, let us fight and win GMB.
GMB Scotland, well done, Shireen. I am being kind to people on the red light, I must admit. I might have to start getting tougher.
Stuart Ross, GMB Scotland. President, Congress. There are some people in Scotland who like to spin the myth that Scotland is different. You'd be forgiven at times for thinking that austerity stops at Carlisle. I can assure you, Congress, that it doesn't. Scottish local government has been savaged for years, consecutive budget cuts totalling an estimated £1 billion. 9 years of real-term pay cuts for staff and tens of thousands of jobs and livelihoods lost. Scotland has suffered from the Tories' failed austerity agenda, but it's an inconvenient truth that the SNP have accelerated that austerity, not least with an 8-year council tax freeze. A political sop to the middle class which starved councils of vital funding when they needed it most. Congress, austerity is evidenced all across Scotland. School cleaners working 2 jobs in the same council to make ends meet, 70 hours working weeks for home carers, refuge workers struggling to deal with the mounting rubbish, or classroom assistants face raising levels of working abuse. But we can fight back. This year, thanks to GMB Scotland and our members' pay campaign, workers in Scottish local government received their first above-inflation pay increase for years. We achieved this because we said enough is enough. Congress, our job is to ensure that this is not a moonbeam of success. A second decade of austerity is not inevitable, but unless we are prepared to fight as a movement of Labour should, then we will always get less than we deserve. Let's take a no-nonsense approach to purveyors of austerity at all levels of government, defend the interests of our hard-working members and lead the way for the trade union movement. Support the CEC report.
Well done, Stuart. Thank you. North Western Irish region.
Linda Mercer, North Western Irish region. President, Congress, I'm pleased to put forward my opinion and the opinion of the North Western Irish on the special report on local government and austerity. Homelessness, food banks, children, families in poverty, elderly struggling, disabled, lonely and isolated, potholes, wonky pavements, crime, young people on the streets, fly tipping, mess, housing, shops, less of them, less people working, less money to spend, less support, and all costing more in council tax. We welcome this report and the plan they have to support not only our local government workers, but everyone. Because everyone needs a local government. Everyone needs support, from social workers to waste services. From cradle to grave, we need excellent services to ensure our lives are worthy of the help we need. Outsourcing isn't the answer. It has been proven with the collapse of Carillion. In actual terms, this has led to local authorities having to spend more and are now in financial demise for having to cover for the cost of Carillion's collapse, with little or no help from central government. After all the cuts to staffing, it has left our members in poverty, even some who are working, and those who are working at the point of exhaustion. Long-term sickness figures shows that the majority of ill are there because of work-related stress. This often leads to job losses. Tameside, like every other local authority, is in the throes of integrated services, in the hope that sharing services will save jobs and improve services. Does it save jobs? Does it improve services? Integrated care services, where the primary care services are working alongside social care. Several councils sharing services for children, waste services and other service areas. And I'm sure there'll be more of these. I was speaking to the head of engineering this week, who asked if there was any way that the unions could get the council to change what we pay our staff for overtime, because these overtime rates had been cut 3 years ago. He has a very capable staff, and they are award-winning staff. And they're having to turn down overtime because it isn't worth the pay. And he is having to employ contractors, which are costing more than his own workers.
Linda, can I just remind you, you've got the red light.
Okay, thanks. The present system doesn't work financially. It is putting more people into deprivation. The Go Public campaign will give hope to those who work in local government. Let's all put pressure on government, employees and employers and the Labour Party for more funding to our local government. We've been told austerity ended. Well, I want to know when. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Northern region, please. And then it'll be Midlands, London and Birmingham. So if you want to show your credentials as well.
President, Congress, Binatiburu, Northern Region supporting CEC Special Report on Local Government on Austerity. In supporting this report, it's really good news that GMB has been heavily involved in setting up of all parliamentary groups on social care. The government has been pitiful in taking so long in taking about green papers on health and social care. The government has been all about spinning and putting health and social care under one cabinet post. What's required is for us to go with it. We need fully funded sector for NHS and social care. At the moment with austerity, councils are facing years on years costs and social care is suffering both in care home and care in the community at home. That has an impact on clients and families and all our members working as carers in care homes or as home helpers. Congress, the system is broken and GMB has been in the forefront, trying to develop an agreement in Parliament on funding something that is needed now and not in the future. Please support, support, support. Thank you.
Thank you. Midlands.
I hope this special report says don't get old. Okay, thank you. Greetings, comrade. Tony Davison from Midlands and East Coast. Supporting the CEC's motion regarding austerity. There we go. Nearly 10 years of austerity have devastated public services and living standards for millions of working class and middle class people. For example, in Hull, the Tories have cut 130 million from the council budget. This has meant horrendous cuts in children and adult services. Places for austeric children in special needs school can't be found because of cuts in high need block funding. They're excluded from mainstream schooling in fear that they will bring their Ofsted ratings down. In Hull, mental health services are almost non-existent. With suicide rates amongst young people now, mental health services are more than vital. Care workers are only able to spend 10 minutes a visit with vulnerable elderly people. In Hull, 40% of households take home below the poverty level wages, and many of those are our members. Since the Tories introduced universal credits, where claimants for state benefits are kept weeks on end with no money, there is evidence of women turning to prostitution in order to avoid being evicted for non-payment of rent. Education, the National Health Service, all are in desperate crisis. Yet millionaire Chancellor Philip Hammond, in an interview on BBC, rejected the idea there was poverty in Britain. He was responding to a United Nations report which describes poverty in Britain as systematic and deliberate, and that 14.2 million people, a fifth of the population, currently live below the poverty line. It's an utter disgrace. This takes place in the 5th richest country in the world, And there's more than enough money for everyone a decent quality of life. And austerity is a political choice of the Tories. They say they've got no money. They found £1 billion to bring on the DUP when they lost the parliamentary salary. Comrades, a hero of mine was Terry Fields. He was a workers' MP on a workers' wage. And he used to say to his audience, comrades, if all the chief CEOs of the FTSE 100 companies took the first 2 weeks in August for the holidays, what would happen? Yeah, exactly. But what if all the workers took the second 2 weeks in August for the holidays? What would happen? I put it to you, who runs the country? It's time we march forward and took power. Thank you.
Follow that, London region.
I don't think I can follow that. Just be gentle with me, yeah. Gary Harris, London region, supporting this report. During these times of austerity, our union has seen cutbacks on staff causing stress and uncertainty. We have also been working hard to ensure all councils implement previously agreed 2-year NJC pay deal. We have been working with Southern Region on this, and we have used joint events to build membership across schools and councils and to share best GMB at work practices around the organising and campaigning agenda, directly with issues raised by members at face-to-face workplace meetings. It is disappointing the report does not mention the attacks our union and its activists have been under, occasionally from councils you would least expect it to come from. By doing a detailed audit of all public service branches, we have identified a number of local authorities and councils where, besides having no facility time, the regional officers have agreed a strategy to target a number of local authorities, councils and schools and encourage lay members to become active. This is so far proven positive and is beginning to show large numbers of lay members coming forward as workplace shop stewards. Our region fully supports a national drive to end public sector outsourcing, which is used to undermine NJC terms and conditions and avoid local government pension schemes. In London region, we have secured commitments to bring services back in-house, but this can be a long process. Our late President, Mary Turner, spearheaded a campaign to bring the Wetlands Estate cleaning contract back into Brent Council control. I am very proud to report this was finally completed this year and will remain part of her legacy. Another positive example is Islington Council, where the Labour-controlled council came up with ingenious ways to fight government cuts while working with the GMB and other trade unions, ensuring that there is no impact on frontline services and staff. However, sadly, same cannot be said for all councils. So we want to make all Congress aware where councils use the law to set up their own companies as an alternative to outsourcing. This is a Trojan horse. On the surface, it looks as if it should be a good thing, but we see the councils like Dagenham and Barking, where the board of this local authority trading company have no connection with the local area. They treat staff on as two-tier employees, where new employees get inferior terms and conditions to those directly employed. We would have austerely seen this approach in some Tory-run councils, yet the leader of Barking and Dagenham Council seems proud to outsource the council services, set up third-party trading companies like Be First, and attack trade union activists and negotiated facility time in the process.
Gary, you got the red light, I'm sorry. But
Sorry, Bob. We need to keep challenging these actions. The Labour-run council in Barking and Dagenham must be no exception. If they act more and more like the opposition, then residents will treat them as such when they next visit the ballot box. Thank you. Please support.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you. Birmingham speaker, please. Is there a speaker from Birmingham?
Steph Way, Birmingham West Midlands region, first time delegate, first time speaker. Very nervous, so just bear with me. I'm proud to work at Stoke-on-Trent City Council and have done for nearly 10 years. I've seen many members, colleagues and friends lose their jobs or be cheapied out because of Tory austerity. It is heartbreaking and demoralising to see people I know crying because of the fear of what their future holds and what may happen to their dependents. When a person is vulnerable, made homeless, fleeing an abusive relationship, it's our members, our reps, our activists that are there to help and support. We are constantly facing cuts to services, and as our most vulnerable who are finding it difficult to get help and that they desperately deserve and need. The outsourcing and cheaping of GMB members has become normalised, and so is treating them like second-class citizens. Members are regularly facing attacks on their terms and conditions or having their disciplinary meetings and their sickness meetings dealt with underhandedly. Employers are doing this because they know they can exploit and employ people on a lower wage and get the same high level of work for less. For those that are cheapied out, this could also affect their terms and conditions. Some local authorities are bringing services back in-house, and I'm proud that our GMB is helping the drive with this. In my local authority, we've succeeded in bringing some of these back in-house. The Tory government say they haven't got a money tree. They can fund a trip for Trump that nobody wanted, but they can't provide money to local governments. We have no money, they say, but they can award a contract for ferries to a company with no ferries. We have no money, they say, but the cost to the taxpayer is 50 mil. Private businesses invest in their future, their profit, their pockets. We get a government that won't invest in services that can't protect the futures of our local governments now. When you hear the words Tory government, you automatically think cuts, privatisation, cuts, no workers' rights. How much longer can local governments continue with the brutal, cruel and on occasions life-changing attacks? Our members cannot continue to take attacks when their futures are at risk. Our communities deserve better. They deserve social equality. They deserve more. It is time to rebuild local governments. It is time to end social equality, to build safer futures. With a strong GMB membership and a united Labour government, we can put an end to Tory austerity, we can build our futures, members' futures, and look after future governments. We support.
Thank you, Birmingham. Thank you to all those speakers. I now put the CEC Special Report on Local Government and Austerity to the vote. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? Okay, thank you. We now move on to the next debate on motions 227, 228 and 272. While that's happening, could speakers for the next group of motions, that is 185, 187 and 188, please make themselves ready and come down to the front. Thank you. Can I have the mover for motion 227, please? Thank you.
Dave Montague, North West Irish Region, forward on motion 227. First time speaker. President, Congress, I would like you to support this motion on allowing all LATCO, local authority trading companies, employees access to the local government pension scheme. Just over 3 years ago, Liverpool City Council set up and fully owned Liverpool Street Scene Services Limited. Within this LATCO, there are approximately 750 employees, yet only around a quarter of them have access to the local government pension scheme. With your support, we will give a clear mandate to the CEC to lobby all Labour councils when setting up a LATCO to allow all its employees the same pension rights. LATCOs, unlike local councils, can make a profit of up to 20% of their contract value. These profits could offset any additional pension contributions that they would have to incur. So only with your support can we eradicate two-tier pension systems within LATCOs and finally get a decent pension for the many and not the few. Congress, I move.
Well done, David. Thank you.
President Congress, Jeff Keats, North Western Irish Region, second in motion 227. Our union has always been against two-tier working, and what we have with this LATCO is staff doing exactly the same work on inferior contracts as they're not members of the local government pension scheme. A LATCO, solely owned company of Liverpool City Council, needs to address this. I feel our union needs to lobby Parliament and the Labour Party to adopt a policy that all workers in LATCOs should be able to join the local government pension scheme. Failure to allow this will cause the scheme to fail as members retire and no new members are joining to support the scheme. Please support. I second.
Thank you, Jeff. Mover for motion 228, please.
President, Congress, Matthew Denton, North Western Irish Region, moving motion 228, public contracts to good employers. Every year, the government spends billions of pounds on thousands of private sector contracts, ranging from global companies to sole traders. But how do private companies win contracts in the first place? And what precautions does the government take to protect taxpayers' money? The National Audit Office estimates that just over 250 billion of central local government money went to private suppliers in the 2015-16 financial year. That's about 1/3 of total government spend. Central government departments and the NHS accounted for around 136 billion. In the past, some of these contracts have been awarded to companies who have engaged in blacklisting or other serious labour law breaches. Blacklisting is a nasty, secretive and unaccountable practice that causes untold misery for individuals who are entrapped unwittingly by its covert nature, incapable of challenging what is being said and used against them, and unable to understand why their lives are being blighted by the failure to secure work. In relation to the blacklisting of trade union members, the Department for Business, Innovation and Skills defines it as the systematic compilation of information on individual trade unionists and their use by employers and recruiters to discriminate against those individuals because of their trade union membership or because of their involvement in trade union activity. We believe the time has come for a change of that direction. We need a new approach to public servicing, commissioning, procurement and delivery. We call on Congress to include a good practice clause in all public contracts awarded to national and local government going forward. This would include not engaging in blacklisting or other serious labour law breaches, recognising and negotiating with trade unions, paying full taxes and practising due diligence when it comes to protecting workers' rights throughout its supply chain, both in the UK and abroad. Providing full transparency about who runs our services and how they perform. Promote inclusive and high-quality social, economic, employment and environmental standards. And promote sustainability and the highest standards of corporate governance and accountability for those organisations who we choose to partner with. Please support this motion. I move.
Well done, Matthew. Thank you. Seconder.
Kay Doherty, North West Irish Region, second in motion 228, first time speaker. President, Congress, you will recall the collapse of Carillion in January 2018 with debts of £1.2 billion and the cost to the taxpayer to the tune of £148 million. The story of Carillion was a story of recklessness and greed. It was the same old story, the same old greed. A board of directors too busy stuffing their mouths with gold to show any concerns for the welfare of their workforce or their pensions. Then the Interserve problems which came after the failure of Carillion. Ministers have learned nothing, absolutely nothing from the Carillion collapse. The Carillion collapse has also brought into focus the actions of the four main accountants, PwC, KMPG, Deloitte and EY. For some time now, the four big accountancy firms have put their own finances above guarding their clients. They have a strangled hold on the market. They now audit 97% of Britain's top 350 listed companies. Colleagues, we require real reform beyond merely breaking up the big four. Most importantly, it is time to systematic banks and service providers to be audited by a public body, answerable to Parliament, and that is motivated by the public interests rather than fee generation. Colleagues, it is great to see that our union, the GMB, was the leading campaign reference the collapse of Carillion and the problems at Interserve. Also on blacklisting, GMB, with its rigorous campaigning and determined legal stance, secured compensation for workers who lost their jobs and had their lives ruined for carrying out legitimate trade union activities. Colleagues, please support this motion. Public contracts to good employers with proper and accountable audits.
Thank you, Kay. Mover of 272, please.
Good morning, Congress. Eric Ojiaku, London Region, first-time delegate. First-time speaker. I will be moving the motion on 272 on selling of public buildings. But may I, before then, capitalize on this opportunity to thank, and if permitted, on behalf of all the first-time speakers and first-time delegates, for the union as a whole and London Region for giving us this opportunity and experience. President, Congress, we wanted to raise awareness on this issue. Firstly, the GMB is absolutely opposed to the selling of our public buildings. A prime example is where Newham Council proposed selling the Canning Town Library. This was the place where back in 1889, Will Thorne formed the National Union of Gas Workers and General Labourers, which later became the GMB. This Grade 2 listed building also hosted speakers such as Keir Hardie and suffragette Sylvia Pankhurst. Congress, if it hadn't been for the GMB relentless campaign, this beautiful historic building would now be a Nando's. We know we need extra housing, but the selling of public buildings to turn them into extra homes impacts our hard-working public service workers who have taken on more work for the same money. Turning buildings into more residents also impacts schools and doctors' surgeries, amongst other things. I wouldn't say more. Congress, we need to continue to campaign on this, and on that note, I move.
Well done, Eric. Thank you. Seconder for motion 272.
Sorry about the delay, Congress. I tripped over my dog, would you believe?
Don't apologise. You don't need to apologise.
That's all right. Right. Colin Gadsden, London Region, first-time delegate, first-time speaker. President, Congress, as the mover just said, we need to work with our councillors and MPs to ensure that development plans acknowledge and the impact on workers. Our motion calls for the survey to be carried out and understand that the CAC has reservations about this, which we appreciate. We can consult our members in other ways. Please support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Does anybody want to speak against any of these motions? No? Okay, in that case, can I ask Mary Hutchinson on behalf of the CEC to respond?
President, Congress, Mary Hutchinson, Northern Region, speaking on behalf of the CEC on motion 272, impact on workers of selling off public buildings. We are supporting this motion with a qualification. We recognise that the conversion of work sites to residential use may lead to an increase in the burdens on refuse workers and those in other connected occupations. When workload and duties increase, this should be properly compensated. Our qualification is that carrying out a survey may not be the most effective way of canvassing opinion on this question, given that we already send members a number of surveys each year, and engaging through our rep structures may be a better option, as they may wish to take this up as a bargaining issue locally or nationally. Congress, please support this motion, but with the qualification explained. Thank you, Congress.
Thank you, Mary. Does London Region accept the qualification? Thank you. In that case, I'll take motion 227, which the CC are supporting. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. Motion 228, which the CC are supporting. All those in favour, please show. That motion's carried. And motion 272, accepting the qualification. All those in favour, please show. That's anybody against? That's carried. Thank you. We will now debate motions 185, 187, 188, but could speakers for the next group of motions 152, 153, 154, 157 and 158 also get yourselves ready, please? Thank you. Mover of motion 185.
President, Congress, Dave Levy, London Central General Branch from London Region, still a first-time delegate to move motion 185. This motion addresses the growing use of biometric data capture and its use as a bogus authentication mechanism, where its real purpose is to increase both surveillance and control. As Europeans, we have, for good reason, given our history, developed strong laws of privacy. These rights are specified to defend our privacy against both the state and business, Although in the 21st century, we're now in a position where we can see that in the surveillance society, the difference between the two is somewhat strange and difficult to tell. This excessive intrusion is unnecessary. It's designed to intimidate and control, and the use of biometric data such as fingerprints or even eye scans, but more commonly portrait photographs, is wrong in principle. The rules of two-factor authentication require something you have and something you know. Nothing requires that the something you have is biometric, although the obvious advantage to management is it can't be forgotten. The obvious advantage to MI5 is that it's hard to forge. As ever, when introducing these security measures, no account is taken to the reasons visitors wish to enter the building. In some cases, such as lawyers visiting their clients, the visitors have privilege, which is diminished by excessive monitoring and opens those individuals up to inference attacks for the surveillance society. In addition, these tools are a gateway to effort monitoring. The number of times I've heard of the use of proximity passes and door controls to determine whether people were together and capable of conversations is enough to be reported here. This data is categorized by the GDPR as special. Thus, the use and processing of such data is actually prohibited. Of course, there are some unlesses, but these unlesses are not available to the average private sector employer, nor most public sector employers, and the lawful purpose of consent is unavailable to employees of the data controller. You're not allowed to give your permission that this data can be used. Personally, I don't see eye scanners or fingerprints so often, although I have had to use them when visiting a member on public sector sites. But the use of photographs is now ubiquitous, and these too are special data since they document the ethnicity of the subject. The prime beneficiaries of these investments are almost certainly the systems vendors. We also need to talk about the storage limitation principle. How long will this data be kept? Who has access to it? And how will we know? We also need to talk about the jurisdictional control. Where is the data held? Is it held in the EU? Is it held in countries with an adequacy decision? Is it held in the USA, with or without a privacy shield guarantee? Or is it held elsewhere? I'm grateful that the CEC are recommending support, but in their comments they question if this should ever occur. I mean, I tend to agree. So let's inform our members, let's inform our workplaces, let's tell our branches, make sure people know their rights and can defend their right to privacy. Let's use the full strength of our union to support those of our members where our organisation is not strong enough to stop these machines. I move.
Thank you, Dave. Seconder, please.
Dan Durkin, first-time delegate, first-time speaker. Thank you. Speaking on seconding motion 185, biometric checks at the workplace. President, Congress, we've already heard a lot in this conference about the declining quality of work, and part of this is biometric checks at the workplace. They're a particularly dehumanizing aspect of it. Biometric checks, they take fingerprints, they take eye scans, they take photos, they take personal data. They can be used as surveillance on employees. They can make sure employees are doing certain tasks at certain times. It assumes that employees are about to break some code of conduct, and it treats them as criminals in the workplace. It is creating a police state within the workplace, and it's something that we must fight against. Employees who are most likely to be at risk here are young, are women, and are a black and ethnic minority background. The irony of this is that we as trade unionists know that the companies who are making money here are sweating their workers, and they are the criminals. This motion is about dignity in the workplace, and so we must support it. Please second this motion.
Thank you, Dan. Mover for motion 187. Is there a mover for motion 187? No? It will fall if there's no mover for 187. You formally moving it? Is that allowed? I don't know. Is that allowed? Yes, it is allowed. Thank you. Okay. So you're formally seconding it as well, then, I presume. Mover for motion 188.
President, Congress, Pushpa Makwana, London Region, moving motion 188 on zero-hour contract. Congress, I am sure most of you have spoken to members about zero-hour contracts, and I understand this affects more than 800,000 workers in UK. We understand that zero-hour contracts may be good for some employees as they provide them with ultimate flexibility, also allowing them to hire and fire as they like. But for workers, they provide zero security. Those who don't guarantee works with no benefits and the jobs that can be cancelled last minute. Congress, there are people who will find it difficult to get on mortgage or get on property ladders as they're applying for the credit to meet their ends. Zero-hour contracts are not what we have come to understand as jobs. They provide no security, no income, and no opportunity for workers to plan their lives away from work. Not knowing 1 week from another what money is coming to buy food and pay the bills is extremely stressful. Congress, staff on zero-hour contracts have also showed themselves to be more open to abuse and harassment than regular permanent contracts with full rights. Having your hours varied at short notice is also stressful and disruptive and makes planning childcare arrangement and budgeting hard as they can lead to stress and mental health issues within the families. Having varied earnings thrown into doubt an individual's eligibility to claim various forms of benefits. For example, the working tax credit for the single person who can claim has to work more than 16 hours a week, but whether an individual access these hours can vary from week to week under zero-hour contract, creating even greatly uncertainty over income. Whatever the hard numbers tells us, zero-hour contracts have come to symbolize a wider concern within the labour market is moving towards less security and more exploitative form of employment. BAME and young members aged 16 to 25 are more forced into work into zero-hour contracts because they have no choice due to the present economic climate, are likely to face insecurity at work. Black workers appear to be disproportionately affected by their example in the kitchen and the cleaning staff, who are majority of the workforce are women, and also they are low paid. What is clear that we're growing numbers of workers who have no regular hours of force uncertainty every week to pay the bills and rent. Now, what is GMB doing about this? As a union, GMB wants to see zero-hour contract banned, and we have made representation to this effect. GMB has recently announced a landmark agreement with Hermes, forcing them to guarantee a minimum number of hours to work to the workers should they choose to. We need more and more agreement like this to be implemented in our workplace, and we need to shout about the positive things we are doing at GMB. Congress, at GMB, we need training and tools at branch level. I urge you to support this motion. Thank you.
Well done, Pushpa. Seconder.
Lorna Gale, Aviation Security, London Region, supporting motion 1880, contract hours. President, Congress. The Mayor of London has said that he promises to abolish all zero-hours contract from the workplace by 2020. Perhaps we ought to ask him to confirm this afternoon. We know that this decision did not come easy. A lot of hard work has been done around the Heathrow area towards achieving this victory. We know that it did not come easy, not without the continuous campaign and hard work of every active member of the union. Officers and reps have worked hard to persuade the employers and the government, although not to their liking, to do away with zero-hours contract. Why not use these success stories to advertise and promote the union? Surely this is what members and others want to hear about. This will help the workforce to understand the importance of being in the union and also the help and support available within. It will help to highlight the fact that their money is being put to good use and not, as the saying goes, money for old rope. Advertising and letting a wider audience know the work that we are doing helps to lift the spirit and give zeal and commitment to the individual who has worked hard to help to secure these victories. Hard work, success stories, commitment, and victories are what make the union. We are a great union, of which I am proud to be a part of, and we want to use every opportunity to tell the world how great we are. I second this motion, and I ask the CEC please support.
Well done, Lorna. Does anyone wish to oppose these motions? No? Then can I ask Peter Kane from the CEC to summarise the CEC's positions?
President, Congress, Peter Kane speaking on behalf of the CEC on motion 187, employment slavery. Congress, we're asking this motion to be referred. The motion raises an important point and highlights a classic behaviour of unscrupulous employers exploiting the vulnerability of workers' contracts and benefits. As this motion highlights an issue in Lambeth, it is our position to refer this motion to see if it is a wider issue across the country. We would encourage our colleagues in Lambeth to campaign locally to ensure that workers, and certainly our members, are not being extorted, having to work extra hours unpaid. Universal credit and the benefit system in the UK is broken, and universal credit has been discussed at conference since it came into force. This motion alludes to the systemic problem of workers not being paid enough to live on, which the GMB has and will continue to campaign to rectify. So, Congress, we are asking for this motion to be referred for further consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Southern Region, do you accept the reference back? Thank you. So I will now put the motions to the vote. The CEC are supporting motion 185. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? Thank you. Motion 187. Southern Region accepted the reference back. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Anyone against? That's carried. Motion 188. The CEC are supporting. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. Congress will now debate health, safety and environmental motions. Could the speakers, though, on public services industrial policy motions also get ready? That is motions 249, 251, 253, 254, 255 and 270. Could I have the mover for motion 152, please?
Madam President, Congress, Kevin Ensby, Yorkshire, North Derbyshire region. Colleagues, Congress, there are many industrial processes that we deal with on a daily basis that produces all sorts of contaminants within the workplace. Dust, gases, liquid, mist, vapours, microorganisms, you name it, it's out there. Just because we don't see it, it doesn't mean it's not going to harm and affect us. We have a problem. Many diseases now that are coming to head were formed many years ago. Look at some of the diseases that are caused by some dust, gas, liquid, mist and vapours. We're talking asbestosis, mesothelioma, silicosis, pneumoconiosis. Some of the exposures happened up to 40 years ago. Now, if we haven't got health and safety legislation in place now, what chance have we got to protect our workforce from all those years ago? Unfortunately, a lot of these processes that we do have are self-inflicted. We've only got to look at the pollution that is actually being caused to our environment. We're looking at now some of the planes, trains and automobiles that we have. We go from A to B and we are causing diesel fuel pollution within our atmosphere. The cost to the nation is tenfold. We are looking now across Europe alone that £240 billion is spent annually protecting, looking after our fallen friends, people that are suffering injuries and ill health. But when we look at the word employee, what is an employee? It's not just a worker that turns up every single day for work, whatever shift they're on. It's the family of the employers, the employees. The brothers, the sisters, the mothers, the fathers, all these people are being exposed, and some inadvertently exposed, indirectly exposed, by just wanting to be around their father when they're coming from work with a bit of dust on their clothing. That has happened in the case of asbestos. But the biggest one for me, folks, is, like I said before, diesel fuel emissions, because this is still a problem that we have that is creating climate change across our globe. Now, one thing's for certain, folks, if our employer is willing to expose us to those fumes, we're willing to expose them. And that's what we need to do, because that is part of what it's all about with regards to protection of our workforce. Some of you here might remember a little lady called Greta Thunberg, a 16-year-old Swedish schoolgirl that brought the Swedish government to heel. One day in March 2019, she actually organised a strike in which 1.4 million school children went on strike with a view to climate change. Fantastic, I know. Why can't we do that? She came to this country, she met heads of service, heads of state, even our own Jeremy Corbyn. But did you know about that until I just told you? She actually met with Jeremy Corbyn. What is the result from it? We don't know. The fact is, though, it's having an impact. Impact not for today, not for tomorrow, but our children and our children's children. And this is why we've got to take action now. We're on the verge of having a public health emergency in our country, and the NHS is overstretched, and it will also be overstretched until we bring these diseases, these conditions to task. But there is a solution. We can bring it back from the brink of disaster by simply looking at what we have in place and what we need to do to improve upon it. Now, if you go by what the Tories are saying, they're trying to deregulate health and safety legislation. What? They cannot deregulate health and safety legislation. By doing that, it's going to cause the cost of more lives, more pain, more suffering. So how can we do it? Well, just a few ideas that I've come up with and what I've read is something like the new Clean Air Act. Give the power to governors. Let's have people that formulate and sit down on governing bodies and work out exactly what we want in those documents. Look at outdated legislation. The cost regulations first came out in 1989 and amended in 2002. This piece of legislation is outdated, folks. It needs to be amended. It needs to be brought into such a situation whereby emissions into the atmosphere, into our workplace, needs to be addressed.
Kevin, you've got the red light, just to make you aware.
All in all, thank you for listening, folks. It's been a nice day. Hope it will continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Sorry. Seconder.
President, Congress, John Stevenson, Yorkshire, North Derbyshire. Come on. Slay. Hey, I thought you'd fell asleep. Kevin, I hate you. I'd done a lovely speech and now you've gone and destroyed it because you've covered all my points. However, it's turned out nice again. It's raining cats and dogs. Breath of fresh air. Don't we as a country love talking about the weather? I thought about that when I walked in here this morning and everyone's moaning about the weather and talking about it. The problem is, Kevin's covered the pollution. The pollution goes wider. I'll give you a little short story. I went on holiday recently in May to Scotland. Is Scottish delegation awake? I just said Scotland. Thank you. At least somebody's listening. And I went to the Crannog Centre. Now, for those who know what a crannog is or don't, it's a Stone Age construction, wooden up, sleeps about 20, it's built on stilts and it's in the water. When the Iron Age people did it, the archaeologists tell us it usually lasted about 100 years. They've got a modern one, same construction, very, very similar materials. Because of pollution in the loch, from the atmosphere, they estimate it'll only last 25 years. And that's in a section of Scotland that's beautiful. It doesn't have heavy industry. It doesn't have massive diesel going past. It's affecting all parts of the country. I'm really pleased to second this motion. I move, please support.
Well done, John. Thank you. Mover for 153.
Nathan Clark, London Region, speaking on motion 153, the London Zero Carbon Emissions. Good morning, Congress, President. It was a really good President's Do last night, but as a consequence, I'm a little worse for wear, so please bear with me.
We all are, don't worry.
Now, I've seen in our running order that our friend, the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, will be joining us later this afternoon. As this motion alludes to, the Mayor has set targets for our capital to be a zero-carbon city by 2050, a truly ambitious goal, with plans such as to cut food waste in half, massively increase our solar capacity, and protect London's rivers and wetlands. I hope he takes note of our support of his commitment to the idea of a cleaner, healthier, better London. And in fact, next week, on the 1st to the 8th of July, will be London's very first Climate Action Week, a dedication to the idea of making our capital as green as it possibly can be, both figuratively and literally, with the promotion of attending and improving London's green spaces. Congress, studies are now saying that poor air pollution alone is responsible for more deaths than smoking. And that's without thinking about the longer-term consequences our carbon footprint is having on our environment. Many have argued that we as a country are one of the most progressive in terms of bettering our impact on the environment. So why should we keep working on it? But that's a poor excuse. Our environment is in a critical state. It is in crisis, and it will require every single one of us working together to change that. But Congress, what this motion sets out to do is to ensure that we work as a union to support our members in adoptions of environmentally friendly policies. Our members will be working in businesses who might think it easier, perhaps cheaper, to move away from or to challenge the ultra-low emission zone, as opposed to supporting it. We will also have GMB members who are part of or who own small businesses, which will in some cases struggle to comply with these changes, limited as they are by their tight margins. And we need to make sure they are given the chance. Also, we need to make sure that our low-paid members are not left at a detriment by these changes, and that they are given the ability to affordably and easily adopt an environmentally friendly way of life. Congress, this motion seeks to ensure our members are supported by continuing to incentivise being part of a clean London through financial support or otherwise. And it also seeks to continue to strive for this pledge to be stuck to in the years and decades to come, so that we can be leaders upon the world stage with our clean and healthy capital. Thank you for listening. Please support this motion. I move.
Well done, Nathan. Well done. Seconder.
Andrew Clark, London Region, first-time delegate, first-time speaker. Now, how can I follow what the mover has said? President, Congress, I think we can all agree with the idea of a cleaner, environmentally friendly London. I think that's all what we all want to see, especially us from London. Is that true, London? Okay. Yeah, we cannot shy away from the fact that the air pollution in London at the minute is at a critical point. Recent studies showed there's 5,900 child deaths premature every year, and that's linked directly to air pollution. We think it's an unacceptable figure. Something needs to be done immediately, like the mover has said. We need to take action now. We would ask that our members and their businesses, the costs, we want to give them support and the help they need to get themselves in order to become environmentally friendly in the future and for years to come. Thank you. Second this motion.
Well done, Andrew. Mover of 154.
President Congress, Cathy Holland moving motion 154 from the London region. I have over many years attended the National Hazards Conference. I must add it's an enjoyable and an informative conference and valuable tool for health and safety reps. Although Unison send many reps, GMB reps are sadly in absence in the same numbers. This leads me on to the London hazards. It would be nice as this can be a valuable health and safety resource for the unions if the funding streams have dried up. Is it not the union to be able to help and support and see what can be done to help the London hazards? I move.
Well done, Cathy. Thank you. Seconder.
Danny Byrne, London Region, President Congress, seconding motion 154, the crisis at the London Hazards Centre. The London Hazards Centre was established as a company and a charity in 1984 and has been helping Londoners enforce their right to live and work in a safe, healthy environment ever since. It works with trade unions, tenants and community-based campaigns and is run by its members who elect the directors and trustees at the annual general meeting. It provides an indispensable service for Londoners through its support for campaigns like safety on construction sites and more recently through its asbestos work in schools. The London Hazards Centre also provides assistance for Grenfell support groups and helps deal with air pollution and a range of other environmental issues. The motion explains the reasons for the current financial crisis and asks Congress to approve GMB national affiliation to the London Hazards Centre to help to secure its future and enable it to continue to highlight and campaign occupational health and safety issues. I'd also like to encourage branches in the London and southern regions who are not currently affiliated to do so. I believe it only costs £75. And also for colleagues and branches in other parts of the hall to support their hazard centres in Manchester and Sheffield. Please support the motion.
Thank you, Danny. Mover of motion 157.
Dear visitors, Congress and the President. I am Mr. Paulo Fernandes from Southern Region, first-time delegates and first-time speaker as a delegate. But I have spoken twice at this stage. In 2012, when we were on industrial action at Great Western Hospital staff against the Carillion. And again in 2018, last year, I have been here for an award ceremony, and I have spoken that the result of the Carillion we were fighting has crashed, no more, liquidated, no more company. Just to give a reply to one of the Irish speaker morning from Northern Irish, that government, the Tory government has not bailed out for the Carillion to continue the business. No, because Tory government do not have anything left, but they have bailed out the board of directors just to get rid from the prima facie. Thank you. So I am moving the motion 157 on recycling boxes. Dear colleagues, GMB welcome the increase in recycling from councils. However, this motion raises the concern about the increasing number of back injury, which may causing long-term disability due to the use of recycling boxes. Since 2014, there has been a 25% increase in back injury due to the use of boxes. Wheelie bins is much better as they do not require collector to bend down. The Institute of Occupational Safety and Health has recommended that all councils move to the use of wheelie bins instead of boxes for recycled waste. Congress, please support this motion for GMB to throw its voice behind the campaign to discontinue box type collection and instead move to wheelie bin. I move. Thank you.
Well done, Paolo. Thank you. Seconder, motion 157.
President, Congress, Jeff Hector, Southern Region. Seconding motion 157. As I'm sure you're already aware how vital it is to recycle household plastics, etc., and avoid unnecessary landfill, where at all possible local authorities should supply household with wheelie bins and the box-type recycling boxes phased out as soon as possible as a matter of health and safety. The risk of back injuries or repetitive strain as a result of lifting these boxes must be acknowledged and acted upon. As we all know, back injuries can be a life-changing event. Support this motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Mover for motion 158.
President, Congress. Gavin Downey, London Region, moving motion 158 on bladder cancer. Congress. Our great union has led some successful awareness campaigns for those with work-related diseases, namely mesothelioma. I apologise for mispronouncing that if I did. But I wanted to address a less talked about form of cancer, bladder cancer, often described as a working man's cancer. According to the Fight Bladder Cancer charity, it is the 5th most common cancer overall and the 4th most common cancer in men. Why is that? It is a work-related cancer and occurs mostly in workers in male-dominated manufacturing industries such as chemical, dye and rubber industries. However, exposure to compounds in hair dyes, paints, fungicides, cigarette smoke, plastics, pollutant emissions from industrial installations and metal and motor vehicle exhausts are also high risk. From this list, you will appreciate that it can affect both male and female, and even those not directly exposed to chemicals. For example, painters are at a significantly increased risk of developing bladder cancer, with the risk increasing the longer you work in the trade. The risk arises not solely from exposure to paint, but to factors that can occur in the environment in which painters work, such as the stripping of old paintwork, sanding, or exposure to asbestos. Painters typically are 30% more likely to develop this type of cancer. We know that today's paints are greener, but it is too soon to say as the disease can take 10 to 50 years to develop. We need to put a spotlight on bladder cancer by working with the Fight Bladder Cancer charity. Together, we can provide a much-needed focus on this overlooked cancer and help to provide access to decision-makers in industry and government who can help address the shortage of research funding and poor prioritisation of bladder cancer. We are asking for an awareness campaign for our members working in high-risk industries and also for GMB to work with the HSE on this. We appreciate that this motion needs further discussions with Union Line, as we are also asking for Union Line to set up a similar register to that of asbestos and open up their register to other work-related cancers so that we can gather evidence and record instances. Please support this motion.
Thank you, Gavin. Seconder.
President, Congress, Rachel Hookway, London Region, seconding motion 158 on bladder cancer. First time delegate, first time speaker. So, last month was Bladder Cancer Awareness Week, and we heard of a young 28-year-old mother who survived bladder cancer while 6 months pregnant. She observed that GPs often dismiss the potential for bladder cancer in younger people and women, believing symptoms like blood in urine could be the sign of something less serious or being menstrual or pregnancy related. This mother is trying to raise awareness and is calling on the Scottish Government to provide more funding for the condition, as 62% of those diagnosed die prematurely as a result of their illness. She's also trying to get the charity Fight Bladder Cancer UK set up in Scotland, and for there to be awareness for young people. The Fight Bladder charity is led by patients and carers, and with other cancer charities, they're struggling with funding and support as money goes to the larger cancer charities. They rely on the work of volunteers in communities. We need to work increasing early diagnosis of all types of cancer. Early diagnosis can save lives. Please work with us to raise awareness and support this charity. Thank you.
Well done, Rachel. Does anyone wish to speak against any of these motions? No? Okay, can I ask Elaine Daly, CEC Birmingham and West Midlands, to give out the CEC position?
President, Congress, Elaine Daly speaking on behalf of the CEC. The CEC is asking Congress to refer motions 153 and 154 and is supporting motion 158 with a qualification, which I will outline shortly. Turning first to motion 153, GMB has long supported initiatives to improve the air quality of the country and the environment in which many people work. The air quality in London, in particular, has reached dangerous and critical levels of pollution, breaching EU standards over the last few years. The current mayor is committed, as the motion states, to improve the air quality of the capital so it is safe for workers, citizens and visitors to the city to breathe. The CEC are, however, asking for this motion to be referred as it concerns political issues specific to the London and Southern regions, and so the CEC believes it is best for them to consider, particularly in the lead-up to the 2020 London mayoral election. Moving next to motion 154, as the motion notes, GMB has a long-standing history of support for London Hazard Centre, along with its counterparts in Manchester and Scotland. The CEC position is that affiliations are a reserved matter for the CEC through the Finance and General Purposes Committee. So we are seeking to refer the decision on affiliation to that body after consultation with London and Southern regions. Finally, on motion 158, occupational bladder cancer claims thousands of lives per year, and it is likely that official statistics are underestimated, as there are many causes of the cancer, meaning the link to work is often not made. Due to the long latency before symptoms manifest, it is often perceived to be an older person's condition. As such, there has been little campaigning for preventative approaches, and such an approach is long overdue. There are two qualifications to this motion. The first relates to the demand for a register for exposed workers. As there are many potential causes, it will not be straightforward to compile a register, and we would need to take advice from Union Line on both the value of such a register and how we would operate one in practice. The second qualification relates to the suggestion to work with Fight Bladder Cancer. This is undoubtedly an important and worthy charity, but it is not focused on prevention, and as such, our interactions with them would be limited, as we would seek to focus our campaigning on the removal of exposure risks. Therefore, Congress, please agree to refer motions 153 and 154 due to the reasons set out above, and please support motion 158 with the qualification that has just been outlined. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. London Region, do you accept the reference back on motion 153? Thank you. Motion 154, do you accept the reference back? Thank you. And motion 158, do you accept the qualification? Thank you. So all those motions, motion 152, we are supporting. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. Motion 153, London's accepted the reference back. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. Motion 154, London's accepted the reference back. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. Motion 157, the CC are supporting. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? Thank you. And motion 158, with a qualification. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. Excellent. We'll now debate the final group of motions of this morning on public services industrial policy. Can I have the mover for motion 249, please?
Karen Turner, X17, Medway General Branch, moving motion 249, teaching assistants, professional standards expected for non-professional pay. President, Congress and visitors. Teaching assistants have a varied and often very demanding role in schools. They are often called upon to cover classes when teachers are absent, sometimes with little or no prior notice. But these lessons have to be covered to a high standard so that children still receive an excellent education. Teaching assistants are often left alone to work with some of the most demanding children who have complex needs, challenging behaviours and complex special needs. But teaching assistants complete these challenging roles again to a high standard of professionalism, working beyond their contracted hours for no extra pay and without the reward of professional pay. It is therefore an injustice to hold teaching assistants to account under professional negligence as a disciplinary procedure when they have not been trained to a specialist degree standard. Congress, I ask that you support this motion to end the unfairness of this practice. I move.
Thank you, Karen. Seconder for motion 249.
President, Congress. My name is, I'm from Southern Region, Wesley Strolly. I'll second this motion on the grounds that it is unfair practice. Teachers' assistants are not given the recognition they deserve for the roles which they carry out in many cases. They take on teachers' roles and duties, but yet the government do not believe they deserve to be treated as professionals or the pay. The government cannot expect teachers' assistants to demonstrate professional standards and not get paid for the professional salary they need to be flexibility to approach on handling teaching assistants on the grounds of negligence in a disciplinary procedure and not applying a negative law which is for a specialist degree level. Thank you. I'm moving the motion.
Well done, Wesley. Thank you. Mover for motion 251.
President, Congress, my name is Tracy Gabbett. I'm from Northern Region. First time delegate, first time speaker. I'm moving motion 251, Academy Trusts. Congress, at the outset of this speech, I'd like to make it clear that we oppose academies. We want to see them scrapped, and we want local authorities to have local say in how schools are run. Congress, when academies were set up, we said it would lead to the very problems that we've got now. And let's be honest, Congress, governments of all types push forward for the academies. What we have seen over the years is this has got worse, and it should be that more and more money that should be spent on education is being spent on pay for senior executives. Congress, this is yet another shocking example of the public purse being ripped off by those at the very top. And what makes matters worse is that the government lets this happen. In fact, they want it to happen. Congress, what we need is a full overhaul of this sector. It is a scandal that students, their families and the workforce are getting less while senior executives are getting more. You couldn't make it up if you tried. If money is being used for top management, and we know it is happening, then those academies should be shut down and the services returned to local authority ownership. That, after all, is how democracy works. Academies are a way of top executives getting rich on the backs of the next generation. This cannot and should not be allowed to happen. We have seen what happens when executives in academies trusts dine out on the taxpayer. Those academy trusts fail. So, we also call on the Labour Party to explain what they will do when they get back into power, because the longer the gravy train in Academy Trust is allowed to continue, the worse it will be in the education sector. I move.
Well done. The seconder for motion 251. Thank you. Can the mover for 253, please? Mover for 253.
President, Congress, my name's Alan Hood, Northern Region, first time delegate, first time speaker. Moving motion 253, higher education. Congress, higher education sector is fast becoming a scandal in how it operates because there is a high tuition and accommodation fees that are being paid out. As a result, universities are cash rich. In fact, they are among some of the richest places in the UK. As the system has gone the way it has, senior executives are being paid eye-watering sums of money. And what makes things worse is that the governing bodies in higher education seem to be totally weak in calling these people to account. Congress, top executives in the sector have a captive market. The system is set up for high tuition fees. Accommodation is more and more being provided by universities, who in turn charge high rents in the process. At the same time, top executives are seeking to privatise more and more services. We know that many workers providing vital support services are being paid low wages as overtime work has been contracted out. Many will have to claim benefits to make ends meet. Now we have the disgrace of top executives getting rich simply because the system allows it to happen. Congress, this sector urgently needs to be fully reviewed. Privatisation must stop, and we call on our friends in the Labour Party to adopt our policy as they seek to become the next government. Thank you. I move.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you. Give the mover of 254, please. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Barnes, Southern Region, first-time delegate and first-time speaker. Thank you. Moving motion 254, the Environment Agency. President, Congress, GMB Public Services has made fantastic progress in breaking the austerity pay cap in many areas. The improvements in pay for workers in local authorities, schools and NHS have been highly commendable. And although they have not made up for so many years of austerity, those successes have been a welcome start to ending the misery of pay stagnation for so many public sector workers. However, workers in the Environment Agency and other areas of the civil service have not seen similar improvements in their pay. Since 2010, civil servants have been subject to a pay cap. This year, the derisory 1.3% pay offer was overwhelmingly rejected by our members, as well as those in other Environment Agency unions, yet it was nevertheless imposed on us by our employer, leading all unions towards indicative and formal ballot actions for the first time in many years. The Environment Agency are vital emergency responders. We're crucial in keeping air, water and land clean and healthy for all. We are the fourth emergency services to so many and are treated as such by our employer. But unfortunately, we are not valued as such within the wider society and the public. We ask that GMB helps raise the profile of the Environment Agency workers and what we do substantially in 2019 and ensure that Go Public campaigning puts our crucial work in the spotlight. We'd like the GMB to utilise the current public appetite for environmental issues and vibrant campaigning by other groups to benefit the Environment Agency staff. We'd like the GMB to ensure that we frame Environment Agency pay issues and the government's responsibility to pay Environment Agency workers fairly and equally as a crucial part of not only economic justice for workers, but as a key strategy in the wider public aim to improve the environment. A high-profile campaign, lobbying of local and national government, demonstrations and social media campaigning linked with environmental issues should all be utilised as appropriate to make a dramatic improvement to the public understanding of the Environment Agency workers and our crucial contribution to the environment. Please support. I move. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Do a seconder?
President, Congress and visitors, Leon Mauger, Apex 5, Branch S15, Southern Region. First time delegate, first time speaker. Second in motion 254, the Environment Agency. The Environment Agency protects and improves the environment. They help people and wildlife adapt to climate change and reduce its impacts. These include flooding, drought, sea level rise and coastal erosion. They improve the quality of our water, land and air by tackling pollution head-on. This is just a tiny piece of all the hard work the Environment Agency does to help improve the quality of our everyday lives. Congress, I second.
Thank you, Leon. Mover for motion 255.
Hello, President. Hello, Congress. I'm Robbie Donnelly, Southern Region, D30 branch, and I'm moving on motion 255 for toilet dignity at waste handling facilities. This Congress notes the recent campaign for toilet dignity, whereby female toilets and reasonable facilities for the provision of and disposal of sanitary products should be provided on all building sites. However, it's a scandal that still, in too many UK workplaces, female workers still face toilet indignity at work on a daily basis. This is often the case in very male-dominated industries, such as the waste industry. Figures put females as just 2% of the workers in waste handling, and in a workplace where our sisters feel they stand alone, companies are reluctant to pay for a separate female toilet. Employers fall back on HSE guidelines which state, Men and women can use the same toilet so long as that toilet is in a lockable room and separate from urinals. However, what we find this leads to is in waste sites with a unisex toilet, female staff and visiting GMB officers are often left using an unclean and degrading toilet or redirected to use toilets in a remote admin block. And this isn't limited to solely private sector companies such as Viridor, WNS, Viola, etc., but it also happens in the public sector. In Dorset Council, they have a small yard up in Sherborne which has no toilets at all, and the 3 male staff and 1 female worker are expected to go down the road to use the public toilets in a public car park. You wouldn't go to Disneyland in Paris and then go, well, we provide toilets because they can go to Disney World if they want to. It's completely unacceptable. And these Mickey Mouse excuses of saying, well, we're providing toilets because we have them 15 minutes or 20 minutes walk down the road is basically unacceptable. This Congress resolves to campaign for all waste facility depots to provide suitable and separate toilet facilities for both male and female manual staff with sanitary waste disposal facilities for female workers. With that, I move.
Well done, Robert. Thank you. Seconder for motion 255.
Chris Hibbard, Southern Region, first-time delegate and first-time speaker. President, Congress. This motion 255 addresses toilet dignity at waste handling sites where manual workers, both men and women, are employed. Men and women waste handling staff are entitled to adequate toilet facilities. Instead, women workers in particular are too often subjected to the indignity of enduring unacceptable toileting arrangements in facilities fitted with urinals. Employers have an obligation to provide suitable, adequate, and properly functioning male and separate female toilet facilities. Furthermore, these essential toilet facilities should be regularly cleaned, replenished with soap and towels, and maintained with running water and drainage to an acceptable standard. Waste handling toilet facilities should be presented in a manner that anyone would like to use them. GMB members, wherever and whoever you are, should never be subjected to substandard levels of sanitary management. I have been a local government officer with responsibility for public conveniences. I second this motion.
Well done, Chris. Thank you. Mover of 270, please.
Good morning, Congress. Steve Alexander, Midlands and East Coast Region, moving motion 270. Take back our schools. Madam President, comrades, 2/3 of academy groups are failing disadvantaged pupils. A 5-year study by the Sutton Trust has just revealed. The director of the Institute of Education at University College London, who is the co-author of this study, states that the government should capitalise on the successes of local authorities. A recent report commissioned by the Local Government Association clearly shows that the schools with lower Ofsted ratings are more likely to improve under local authority control. The study covered 16,000 schools over the last 5 years and shows that of the schools that required improvement, 88% of those remained under local authority received good or outstanding, compared to only 59% of those who became academies. The chair of the Local Government Association states this clearly shows that under local authority control, more keep their high Ofsted ratings and a significantly greater proportion are turned around from struggling or failing into highly performing. So why, with this wealth of evidence, aren't local authorities just stepping in when an academised school is failing? Well, that's because, quite simply, they can't. The Academies Act 2010, put in place by this Tory government, makes it legally impossible to do so. When a school becomes part of a multi-academy trust, it ceases to be a separate legal identity. There is no instrument of governance. Its staff all become employees of the trust. The local governors only hold their positions if appointed by the trust and only exercise powers that are delegated by the directors of that trust. These can be amended or removed at any time, as can the governors. This means that the school cannot remove itself from the control of the Academy Trust. It's powerless, as is the local authority. Indeed, the only control in this sorry scenario is the Regional Schools Commissioner, a directly appointed Department of Education official whose role is to oversee the move to academy status or to rebroker any schools that are out of the trust and into another trust. There is no option to return them to maintained status. Rebroker. That's dealing with your schools like they're a commodity, selling them around saying, who wants this one? And offering incentives to get it. Anyway, this is old news, and GMB has a policy stating that our belief is that all schools should be under local authority control. However, it's the finances of our schools that we also need to protect. They are stealing your money. There is nothing on the statutes that prevents trusts from hiving off funds intended for the schools under its control, even if they're underperforming ones. There is no transparency required for their accounts. The only requirement on the statutes is that they are independently audited. They are not open to public scrutiny in any way, not even the elected local authorities. There are many instances of very underhand practices with regard to public money these trusts control. Nepotism is commonplace, lucrative business contracts to companies belonging to the very trust directors. Congress, we as a union need to pursue this, and future governments to establish a way where not only our schools can return to maintain status, but their assets and funds are recovered and protected through the process. Let's act to safeguard our children's education and stop them stealing your money. Congress, I ask you to support this motion. I move.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you.
Mick Widdowson, Midlands East Coast Region, seconding motion 270. President, Congress. This Congress notes that we in the GMB have an agreed policy with regards to schools, and our view is unchanged, that their schools should be under democratically accountable, local authority maintained status. Unfortunately, we are in the grip of an academy trust system that works as a business, playing fast and loose with our children's education and potential future. These trusts do not have a good track record of bringing real improvements to schools that have disadvantaged pupils and are failing. The GMB has always been of the opinion that where these fail, the schools should immediately revert back to local authority control. However, there is absolutely no protection for the finances of these schools. Money can be transferred into the Trust's central coffers at any point without breaking any laws, even if that's just prior to the termination of the Trust as an entity, as in the case of the Wakefield Schools Trust in 2018. There is also no requirement for transparency in the Trust's accounts or the way they use public money. The accounts only need to be independently audited. They are not open to public scrutiny. Congress, we need to resolve to pursue this and any subsequent government to enable a route whereby schools can legally return to local authority maintained status. And crucially, this route must ensure that the funds and assets of these schools are not only protected, but are recouped from the Trust control. Congress, I ask you to support this motion. I second.
Thank you, Mick. Well done. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition? This is all going too smoothly at the moment. Then in that case, I shall ask Cathy Abubaker to give the CEC position.
President, Congress. Cathy Abubaker speaking on behalf of the CEC on motions 249, 251, 254 and 255. On motion 249, teaching assistants, professional standards expected for non-professional pay, the CEC is supporting this motion with a qualification. The CEC recognises that teaching assistants and other school support staff workers are hidden professionals of the education system. We continue to campaign for recognition of their skills and experience, and we note with regret the decision of ministers in the 2010-2015 government to veto the establishment of professional standards for teaching assistants. Our qualification is that we believe the status quo of poverty pay and lack of recognition for teaching assistants is unsustainable, and that its continuation should not be an option. On motion 251, Academy Trust, the CEC is supporting this motion with a qualification. The CEC agrees that there is an unacceptable rise in the levels of executive salaries in schools at the same time that support staff roles and terms and conditions are being squeezed. Our qualification is that established GMB policy is to oppose academisation, to push for a return of democratically accountable local authority oversight, including under a Labour government. On motion 254, the Environment Agency, the CEC is supporting this motion with a qualification. Our members in the Environment Agency deserve a decent campaign to improve their working conditions and should feature in the Go Public campaign. The qualification is that we need to ensure that our campaigns around environmental issues are not in conflict with the Congress policy we have. On motion 255, toilet dignity at waste handling facilities, the CEC is supporting this motion with a qualification. We support the principle of inclusive and appropriate toilet facilities and other amenities, and we support dignified facilities for women and all workers. The provision of clean and regularly clean toilet facilities is the clear responsibility of employers. Our qualification is that it is a long-standing principle that branches should be able to determine their own bargaining priorities in the field of the provision of amenities and facilities, such as means of sensibly, in some areas, there may be a demand for gender-neutral toilet facilities, such as a means of sensibly accommodating transgender workers. We do not believe that it should be Congress's role to override local bargaining priorities in this matter. Congress, please therefore support all of these motions with the qualifications for the reasons I have explained. Thank you.
Thank you, Cathy. I'll now take the votes on the following motions. Southern Region, do you accept the CEC's qualification? Southern, are you awake up there? Southern, do you accept the CEC's qualification? Yes, good. Northern Region, do you accept the CEC's qualification on motion 251? Yes, thank you. Motion 254, Southern Region, do you accept the CEC's qualification? Yes, thank you. Motion 255, Southern Region, do you accept the CEC's qualification? Thank you. So I'll take those motions to the vote. Motion 249 with the qualification. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. Motion 251. All those in favour with the qualification, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. Motion 253, the CEC are supporting. All those in favour, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. Motion 254, all those in favour with the qualification, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. Motion 255, all those in favour with the qualification, please show. Anyone against? That's carried. And motion 270, which the CEC are supporting. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. That concludes the motions for this morning, but we now move on to the first of our regional success stories. And we seem to be going up north first of all, because we've got Yorkshire, North Derbyshire, North Western Irish and Northern Region up first this week. Please, could delegates be advised? Oh, and I've just been, yes, look, it's all women at the top table. Just saying, just saying. Could delegates be advised that some of these videos contain flashing images? And I'm not sure that reads very well, actually, but off we go. The videos, please. Absolutely brilliant. Well done. Thank you. That was really enjoyable and very uplifting to end this session on with the motions. But it's what we do on the ground that counts, and that just shows how much is going on out there for our members. Thank you. Congress, it's my great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Alison Phillips, editor of the Daily Mirror. Ordinary working people don't have many friends in the media, but the Mirror has been a constant champion of our members and their interests. I'm delighted to say that the Mirror now also has its first female editor. Yeah. And she's also been a voice for progressive causes more widely. You might recognise her from last week's Question Time. Alison, thank you for always being willing to listen to this union and our movement. It really is invaluable. And delegates, you can pick up your free copy of today's Daily Mirror from the National Office stand. Okay, don't look at the front page because that's Michael Gove and I can't stand the man. God. But if you go to page 2, there's an exclusive story from GMB on fat cat pay. So, Congress, please welcome Alison Phillips to the stage.
Right, good morning, and thank you. Oh, things are moving. Right, and thank you so much for the invitation today to address your annual conference. As Barbara just mentioned, I took over as editor of the Daily Mirror just over a year ago. And although I'm not one for generally quoting Theresa May where possible, it has been the privilege of my life. So please bear with me. First Congress, first speaker. Very much. Getting there. Right. The Daily Mirror has been fighting for fairness and social justice for 116 years. And we've regularly worked alongside the GMB and your members on campaigns against the gig economy and insecure work, on 0 hours contracts and low wages, and all those forms of modern exploitation that we really thought we'd left behind in the pages of Dickens. Now, we do these campaigns because we share your values, and we do these campaigns because we believe we have a role to play in changing this country for the better. But mostly, we do it for probably exactly the same reason that you people are sat here today, and that's because it's the right thing to do. Sometimes it's the simplest reasons that are the most effective. Sometimes it's just about doing the right thing. When the Titanic went down in 1912, I was on a day off that day, but when the Titanic went down, as you may recall, there were only enough lifeboats for the Kate Winslets on board. But it was the Mirror which campaigned that no ship should ever go to sea again without enough lifeboat places for everyone on board. Then in the 1960s, we helped launch the WWF, and our famous front page picture of a seal being clubbed changed the course of the fur trade in this country forever. More recently, we have successfully campaigned for a change in the law on organ donation, which could save up to 300 lives each year. And we're fighting very hard at the moment to prevent Tories getting away from their manifesto betrayal, which is that we'll end free TV licences for the over 70s. We also want to thank the GMB particularly for all the support they have shown to our campaign to save our steel. Yeah, a lot of work still to be done there, but let's keep going. Now, I'm here today with 2 messages from our readers. That's the 9.5 million people who buy us in print every week, and the 70 million who read us online every week or through their social media feeds. Hopefully that does include some of you here. If not, we've got a very good offer that I can arrange later. Right. So the first message from our readers is a massive thank you. Thank you for all the work you do week in, week out to help the working people in this country. Thank you. Thank you for taking on Sports Direct, Hermes, Uber, Deliveroo and any other business who sought to exploit our readers when they're at work. And thank you to every local member who's given a smile and a bit of support or advice to one of their colleagues, because sometimes it's the little things that can have the most impact. Because when the GMB does the work you do, big or small, it's not just your members who benefit, it is all working people. We benefit by you shining a light on what can be achieved and how anything can be achieved when working people work together in solidarity. The political and economic landscape is dark right now. You know, as well as I do, we have greed exhibiting itself in boardroom remunerations greater than ever before. We have bosses telling us insecurity at work is an inevitability of progress. We have Brexit mayhem all around us. And we have candidates desperate to be our next Prime Minister clambering over each other in their race to the right. Tax cuts for the rich, the value of our NHS being judged in dollars rather than in lives saved, fewer youth centres, teaching assistants, libraries and Sure Start centres. There is much darkness around. But your work shines a light of hope amid that gloom. So, from the Mirror readers, thank you. Now, my second message from Mirror readers is this. Help us, please. Help us fight the poison of fake news, which is polluting our national conversation. We know you've got plenty of battles of your own, but this one is big. And only by working people from across this country demanding truth have we got the merest hope of achieving it. And actually, let's not even call it fake news, because this has nothing to do with news. News, I would say, is what the Mirror and other established news brands do. We owe our survival to having bonds of trust with our readers. We have a strict regulatory code that we have to live by, with penalties of up to £1 million for breaching that. And if I get things badly wrong, there's always the chance they'll bang me up in Holloway, which did happen to a Mirror reader at the start of the last century. And you know what? Some days there are days I think it would be a blessing. But anyway, let's not call it fake news. What I'm talking about today is simply lies. Mendacious, devious, corrosive lies dressed up to look like news. In her 1951 book, The Origins of Totalitarianism, Hannah Arendt wrote, "The ideal subject of totalitarian rule is not the convinced Nazi or the convinced communist, but people for whom the distinction between fact and fiction and the distinction between true and false no longer exist." In the world we live in today, lies are being manufactured in Russian troll factories like they once built ballistic missiles. We have a President of the United States for whom truth has become an utter irrelevance. And perhaps more worryingly, vast numbers of US citizens who no longer seem to care that their president now regards truth as an irrelevance. And this country has no reason to look down our noses at the United States on this. Our next Prime Minister may well be a man who lied about Brexit in black and white on the side of a double-decker bus. And if it's not him, it might be a man who said the British people are sick of experts. Now, what does that mean? Sick of people who are studied and are knowledgeable in their field? Sick of people who believe that right thing to do is to tell the truth? And it's not just politics. This spring, there was a measles outbreak in parts of the country as a direct result of the number of anti-vax fake stories being circulating on social media. Of course, any parent who reads one of these stories, whose main concern is their child's health, is going to be terrified, and they may wrongfully refuse to vaccinate their child. But that is exactly what those who create these posts, some of which have been traced back to Russian troll factories, want to happen. They want to create fear, confusion, and a breakdown in trust between organisations that keep our society functioning. It's the same on climate change, on Holocaust denial, and white supremacy. We used to laugh at people who believed Elvis was still alive and living with Shergar somewhere outside Wyoming. But there is nothing funny about an American president who lied or made misleading claims 2,140 times in his first year in office. There's nothing funny about a baby at risk of pneumonia or death from measles. And there's nothing funny, certainly nothing funny, about the rise and rise of the far right in our country, whose success has been built on a constant stream of social media lies which are dividing our nation. So yes, it's bad. We at the Mirror will continue to do our bit, but please do join us in this fight, because lies are being used to divide the working people of this country, and you know better than anyone that what gives us strength is unity. We need to root out the misinformation that threatens to divide us. We need to encourage those around us to question and rationalise, to try to ensure that emotion is at least balanced with informed thought. For like tooth decay, truth decay requires total extraction of the rot. But I know what you good people in this room are capable of. I've seen it. We at the Mirror are in awe of it. So I know if we need anyone to fight the good fight for truth in this country, it has to be you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alison. Congress, that concludes the business for this morning. Fringe events, please enjoy them if you go, or go to the workshops, and don't forget also to visit the exhibitors behind Congress Hall. Please be back in the hall promptly for 2 p.m. And there is a bucket collection today from Midlands and East Coast for the Butterfly Memory Loss Support Group. Enjoy your lunch. Okay, see you back.